Hello, and welcome to another game development broadcast for Project CSK. As usual, of course, I am the creator of the project, and the online name that I go by is Des. We're going to continue working on the project pretty much where we last left it off in the previous broadcast. I vaguely remember where I was before, though I don't remember exactly, and we'll figure it out though. So what I've been doing though in between that broadcast and this broadcast is because I really need to learn shaders and using shader graphs specifically and particles and VFX and that kind of stuff. So I've been doing a lot of research onto that. There's a lot to learn. And I do mean a lot to learn. So I'm still scratching the surface at the beginning of it. And I don't really have anything to show for it yet. I'm just building up on my understanding of it so then I can make stuff, right? Because that stuff is going to need to be made a lot more into the future when we get into the world part and the pet combat system, like spells, effects, particle systems, and all of that stuff. Even in the game room, though, you've seen me use particle systems so far. I need to make a shield, and I kind of made one, and I can show you what I did, but it's very basic. Like, I mean, really basic. And I'm just learning how this stuff comes together, right? I'm not going to be looking to learn HLSL, which is the for shaders specifically. I'm going to be using shader graph that's built into Unity. I'll actually open up the one that I made over the weekend. It's not much, but it's what I got, and I think it looks pretty cool. So we'll just let that open up in the background, but we'll just keep on going. Oh, hello, Mr. Cog 3D. How are you doing today? Hope you're doing well and looking forward to the long weekend. I don't know if that really affects you, but it definitely affects me, and I like the long weekends. 3-day weekend is fantastic. I really like it. But yeah, so what I'm going to be showing you in just a sec. Bear with me. Okay, so let's jump over to this here. So this is my very first shader that I made. It's not much, and I know this stuff is kind of in the way right now, but hopefully you see enough of it. So this is the end. What I'm doing is a very simple, so we take in the time, multiply the time. Basically, this just gives you movement on the X, and that's what this does, is it just keeps on moving it on the X. So you need this. If you think about it, it's like a position movement over time, like delta time, right? So you need to do that. And then this one here, what I'm using is a Fresnel lens, and then multiplying it by color. So then we get a color. I'm exposing this color property, and then that goes into here, gets merged with the movement graphic, and it gives you a nice little output. So what does it look like? This over here is what I made. So this is an example of, let me zoom in a bit more. This is an example of a shield, right? Like something that we would use, right? So the Fresnel and the transparencies and stuff, it works really cool, and you can do some really amazing stuff with shaders. And there's so much to learn too, though. It's like, okay, like for example, this quad, you look at it, it disappears. Why does it disappear, right? You need to understand Fresnel and how the Fresnel works to understand why at an angle it lights up, but when you look at it flat on, it's still there, right? But you don't see it. Why don't you see it? Because if you think about it, it's like these pixels, think of them as each one of them has a transparency of, let's say, 0.01, right? If you're looking at it flat on, even though it's there, you don't see it, right? But as soon as you move to the angle, right, those pixels are now overlapping. And as they overlap, right, that 0.1, you add two of them together, 0.01, you get 0.02. You add more of them together, you get 0.03. Add more of them together, you get 0.04, and so on. At a certain point, it becomes visible. That's why when you go perfectly look at it like flat on, this is when it's at its strongest. So it's pretty cool. It's really cool to be able to do shaders. And I'm going to be bringing this stuff into the main project. Good, thanks. Each day is the same for me. Well, it's different for everybody, right? Use Unity Visual Scripting to make the shader. I use Unity Shader Graph. It's called Shader Graph specifically. So the cool thing about this is that you can even look at the code if you want to, but I want to learn this because this will really help me out in, because this stuff, it runs on your GPU. Like if you think about it, this is just a visual way of representing script. That script is program logic that will execute on your GPU. This is purely GPU, but you can interact with it through these exposed properties. So these properties are exposed here, and you can see me highlight over them and they light up on the canvas. The way that they're exposed is if we click on this here and we go to the shader, right? So here's my exposed properties, and by adjusting these, right, and you can interact with them through script by adjusting these, right? You can modify. So you're basically passing this information on from the CPU to the GPU, and then the GPU goes and does this really cool stuff. And you can do all of these that are exposed. You can modify them, as well as do things like this. Like you can affect the Fresnel, right? That's a bit too bright, but you know, you get the idea, right? So it's pretty cool. So yeah, this is a visual scripting language that's not unique to Unity. Like Unreal Engine has this as well, and I think other stuff has it too. It's becoming more and more common because then you don't have to learn programming, but what you're really doing is you are doing programming. You're just doing it in a visual way. Is this superior than programming? I would say no. Programming, in my opinion, will always be superior, but this is pretty damn close. Like the stuff you can do with this, it's really interesting. And just with this basic stuff that I've done, right? Like, look at this thing. This is so cool, right? Oh, I changed the color. Let me change it back to that nice little, yeah, I think that was about it. So that looks pretty cool. And because it's running on your GPU and not your CPU, you're hardly like putting a dent on the system, and this will run really well on mobile devices, right? Because you want to balance the CPU and the GPU stuff, right? The stuff that should be on the CPU should be on the CPU. Stuff that should be on the GPU, you put it on the GPU. That way you're balancing the load, right? Yeah, you could technically do this on your CPU, but your CPU isn't designed for this kind of execution logic. And it's going to have a difficult time. And I mean a real difficult time. You're just going to bottleneck on your CPU and get really bad performance. So eventually I'll probably, like much farther down the line, I'll want to learn more about the scripting side of things in case I want to do some more advanced stuff that you can't do using the nodes. But from what I can tell so far, the nodes, there's like well over like 200-300 nodes, and you can do like almost everything that you would realistically want to do. Like even professionals, right? They use the node system. Of course, there's things that the nodes can't do. Then you need to go into the script part of it. So it'll always be an option. I used to be provided by third party as an, it used to be provided as a third party as an extension, but Unity bought them out and embedded into the 2022 version. I'm not aware of those details. I think Shader Graph has been around for a while now, though. I don't know how long. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Shader Graph has been around for a while now. Like some of these video tutorials that I was watching, they went back to like 2018, right? So, but anyway, it's, I asked because I thought you liked the old-fashioned way, strict coding. You're right, I do. This to me is uncharted territory. For me, I will always prefer scripting just because I'm so used to looking at program logic and I'm very comfortable in it, right? I pick up programming stuff very quickly, having learned so many different programming languages like C or sorry, C sharp, Java, ActionScript, JavaScript, and many more that have just kind of messed with over time, including some of the less desirable languages. Like let's say, what was that one that the Shockwave player originally used? I forget the name of it, but it was a written language. It wasn't like traditional syntax. It was like writing out a sentence. It was brutal. And then there was another language that I picked up on briefly just because I was messing around with it, the AutoCAD language. I think it's called AutoLisp. It's pretty bad. Like it is an archaic way of programming. Like even adding stuff together, add, subtraction, division, that kind of stuff. It's so like old school. It doesn't even make sense in terms of modern workflow to try to do something in that old school way. But modern day languages, they're pretty good. And if you learn one of them, you can transfer that logic to pretty much all the other ones in some way, shape, or form. Even if not directly the language, the concept of programming, like variables, hierarchies, functions, for loop, if conditions, switch conditions, all of that stuff, it's all cross transferable. So yeah, you're definitely right. I prefer scripting, but to me, this kind of stuff is still pretty cool. And you can do some really cool stuff with this, which I'll be looking to do down the line. So this one, the concept of this one came from needing to do the force field inside of the game room. If you remember what we got inside of the game room, I'm just going to run this real quick. Oh, I don't have my joystick connected. Let's hope this works on first try. I've been having challenges. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's a Windows update. I don't know what's going on. I'm having challenges with connecting my Bluetooth Xbox controller. And I'm also having challenges with broadcasting too. Like before, what I would do with broadcasting is I would just jump online, open up OBS, hit the broadcast button, and it would just go. But what's been happening is that YouTube keeps on rejecting it, and I have to keep stopping OBS, exit OBS, reopen OBS, start the broadcast again, right? Sometimes I get it on the first try, sometimes I get it on like the fifth try, which is really strange. So right now, again, my Xbox controller is not connecting. It's a bit unfortunate. How do we force a connection? Okay, I'll try shutting it off and turning it back on again. Come on, please connect. Okay, I'll check just to see in case I had it connecting to another device. I don't think so. No, nothing else is active in terms of Bluetooth. There's nothing around me that's active that's Bluetooth. So this is purely my Xbox controller not being able to connect to my Windows. So what I need to do is I need to remove it. Okay. And then I need to go in and have it be discoverable again. Nope, that doesn't want to work. Let's go with this. There we go. Will it connect? Okay. All right, so we have connection. Let me just double check. Okay, yeah, so we're good on the connection part. The old name for Unity Visual Script was called Bolt. Interesting. I was not aware of that. I never broadcast before, so yeah, no, it's all good. I'll figure it out eventually. But okay, so what it'll replace is this right here. We're on the right screen. Yeah. So this is our shield right now, right? So this, of course, there's more to it that I need to do, right? But so this would then be replaced by this, right? So then that would be our shield. However, I don't want to just directly take this into here, and I'll show you that why in a second. So if we go to, nope, not there. Where is that? Nope, that's not it. There we go. So let's look at wireframe. That is way too detailed, right? I don't need that much detail, right? That is way too many vertices, right? So I don't want that. That's one thing, right? And then the other thing is that this is not pixel art, right? So what I need to do is I'm in the process of learning how you take this shader through here. So before we give it to the output, what I need to do is take this node, right? So this is at this point, this node needs to go to some other nodes and then figure out how to make that into pixel art. And then from there, that'll go to the output. And then this will come out as pixelated output. I know it's possible. I've seen other people do it. So those are the two things that I need to do to get this one working. The other thing that I want to do is the flash freeze, right? So this one here, you only see it when we go to the side, right? They're both using the same shader on this. So both this quad and the sphere are using the same shader. What I want to do is the flash freeze that I'm referring to is when you go and you throw the popsicle, right? You throw it, that's one animation. When it hits the ground, the popsicle breaks. That's another animation, which we may or may not really need. But then what happens is that there's this square or rectangle. No, it would be a cross, actually, like a plus sign. So there's 5 blocks, right? So it would be the center block, one to the right, one to the left, one below, and one up, which will have that visual freeze effect, right? So that's the secondary effect. Then the other thing is that if a character model or an explosive is within the blast area, so within those tiles that are affected, then there's a tertiary effect, which they'll be frozen and visually shown that they're frozen for a period of time, right? So I'm trying to figure that stuff out to be able to do that. I can do some of it, but not enough to achieve the desired result yet, hence why I'm doing so much research into shaders and see where that goes. Because these kinds of effects and visual effects, particle systems and all of that stuff, they're going to be a huge part of it. And I mean a huge part of the project, or a very important part, should I say, of it when we get to the pet combat system, because there's going to be all kinds of spells and other types of things that I wanna do. And then having done this and learning this stuff, I see now that with shaders, once you understand it conceptually, you can do some pretty cool stuff. And there's more stuff that Unity uses as a part of their UI, like the cooldown circles that I did for the spells and other abilities. Those are on the CPU, and I don't want those to be on the CPU. Instead, I can make myself a custom shader, a 2D shader that's meant to be used for the UI, that then can offload those resources onto the GPU. There's the health bars that I want to revisit. I want to add custom shaders to the health bars to give them a nice visual aesthetic and stylish effect. So they're going to be pretty cool. And then other stuff. I want to learn shaders is basically what I'm saying, and I'm in the process of learning it. So that's why in between the previous broadcast and this one, this is the first time I'm opening the project. So that kind of brings us to where we are now. My daughter and I had tons of sushi yesterday, and I'm having leftovers today. I just made a mess. I don't like sushi leftovers. Oh man, I kind of wish you didn't mention sushi. I'm a big fan of sushi. I am. And I know exactly what you mean by making a mess. Leftover sushi, though, I will gladly eat that. I will eat it like there's no words. I'll eat leftover sushi, no problem, none whatsoever. In terms of a mess, so this keyboard that I have right now has been through a lot, and that includes having tea spilt on it, food spilt on it, soup spilt on it, accidentally dropping stuff on it, chips dropped on it, crumbs of nuts and whatnot spilled on it, including hot sauce from a sushi place that is my favorite sushi place spilled over a good chunk of this keyboard. And I was right in the middle of doing some programming stuff, right? And I accidentally like knocked over the sauce and it went on my keyboard, and it wasn't a small amount of sauce. I'm talking like a good amount of hot sauce, and it got all in between the keys and everything. Oh, that took me like an hour or two to clean that out. Yeah. So when you say you made a mess, I can relate. I understand where you're coming from on that part. And I know it all too well from firsthand experience. You can take my word for it. Okay, so LOL, yeah. Hey, it happens, right? I'm probably overdue for a new keyboard at some point anyway. I've been using this thing so much that some of the buttons are mashing down. I don't know if it's the combination of the food, the tea, the soup, the cereal, or some other stuff that gets stuck in between the keys that I never could really clear out, or some of the buttons jam sometime for a short period of time. But anyway, that's a whole separate conversation. So what I want to do today, though, is because there's nothing really in terms of the object pool system that I want to do. I'm confident that the object pool system is currently in a good state. It doesn't crash. I can do pretty much whatever I want, and the object pool system works quite well. Like doing this stuff, no problem, right? And then we can go to our object pool, we can activate it and see what's in our pool. I'm confident that this is working well. But what I want to do actually is, so in the last broadcast, right near the end of it, I was talking about the control schemes and other things. So what I want to do is I want to bring in another button or another user interface usable thing, which is the emote system. It kind of exists, but when I was cleaning up the other project and moving all the code stuff into this one, I haven't implemented it yet, even though the circular navigation, which is what we're going to be using, so this right here, this exists. So the circular navigation exists, but to tie it in together with the emote system, and I want to bring that in. And for right now, what I'm thinking is the button that I'll designate for it on keyboard is going to be the right, what would we call it? The right trigger? Right, yeah. Not the right shoulder, but the right trigger, because this is what the right shoulder does. So right shoulder, left shoulder, right? So these buttons are already accounted for, right? So this is me not using directional input, but using the left shoulder, left shoulder, left shoulder, right? And then right shoulder. So this is by design, and I like this idea. But what I want to do is the right trigger right now is not assigned to anything, and I want to bring that in. So that will be our emote button, subject to change, of course. So on controller, it'll be right trigger. On keyboard, what I'm thinking is the E button, right? And of course, later on, I'll let the users configure this and change the controls to something that they would be more comfortable with. And likely, I'll change some of these buttons myself anyway as we discover better control schemes moving forward. But for right now, that's what I would like to do. So let's jump into it and get started and see what's involved in making it happen. I would like to think it's not going to be too difficult, but I mean, yeah, I say that sometimes, and 10 hours later, I'm like, okay, I think I got it. I think I got it. And like 2 days later, I'm like, oh, okay, so now I got it, right? You never really know with these things. And that's kind of what makes it fun, is the challenge of it, right? Okay, so first thing, let's look at, because I want to be able to use the button on the gamepad. So let's look at what we need to do in terms of bringing in that functionality. And of course, there will need to be a way for the users to, for those who are using touchscreen, right? Because we need to support gamepad, mouse and keyboard, and touchscreen. So for the touchscreen, of course, what I would just do is toss in another button or some way of easy access to expressive emotes, whereas on gamepad, it would be the right trigger. Right. Okay, I'm forgetting which one's which now, but you know what I mean. It's the R2. Is it R2 or R1? Oh, I can't even remember this stuff. But I think you get the idea, though. Okay, so what we want to do is let's go to our GUI. We're on the right screen. Yes, we're on the right screen. Okay, so I want to go to the GUI, and then I want to look at the, where was that? So we have HUD, circular menu. Okay, so we have touchscreen controls here, but that's not necessarily, so I'll need to add another one, and you can see that these are my, oh, that's the other thing. I don't know. Let's before I forget, let's see. Did I? Yes, I did. Okay, so I added the auto positioning to the touchscreen control, so they will reposition based on screen size, and they'll dynamically adjust. Okay, so we need to add another button for that. So it'll likely go above one of these, right? So we got these here. The emote one will likely go above it just for easy access, because you want to be able to quickly reach for it during game. So that's one of them. And then let's see. We want to do that, so we need to add that in. Okay, I'll keep that in mind, though I don't think I'll be doing that quite yet. The other is the, so we'll go to game room. Game room, player character. There's this one, action one. I think that's where I need to tie into it. So on input action controls, I think was it. Let's see, what is that? So input action control. Yeah, I think this is it. Yeah, so this is the one that listens in for the gamepad controls. I just need to figure out which button that was. So I'll be adding it to here. So we'll say input controller. This will be primary. I need to restructure these, but for right now, it's all under primary. I think that one was right shoulder. No, right trigger. Right trigger. I'll test it, of course. So start is the pressed, of course. And let's follow this naming convention. So handle input action, right trigger start. And then for the canceled is the released. This is Unity's naming convention. I'm just going with it. Okay. So because we added those to the add, let's go and remove them as well. I do need to create those functions. Okay. And if you're not familiar with it, if you just hold Alt on something that's highlighted red that doesn't exist, you can just hold Alt press enter, and it'll give you these options, and usually it's the first one, and it'll auto-generate these functions for you, and then you can just grab them. That way you don't have to type it out, but I don't want them up there. I want to move them down here somewhere. Maybe not that far down. Where's the other ones? Okay, primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary released right here. Okay. So I want to see it working first. So we'll say debug.log, and we'll say trigger pressed. No, this one is released. And this one is pressed. Nope. Oh, actually, no, that was right. Okay, so pressed. Okay, so that's what I want to see. I want to see that input. Or the output, should I say. Okay, we don't need object pool anymore, so I'll get rid of that. And then let's go ahead and run this, and I'm just going to be tapping this button a few times just to make sure that we do have it working. Okay, so pressed, released, pressed, released. Yeah, I would say that that's working exactly as intended. Okay, so what that's going to do though is the release we're not going to be using. I'm just going to leave that there. It's the press event that we're going to listen to. So this is going to dispatch and no, it's not going to dispatch an event. It's going to push. Yeah, it'll go through our framework. So it'll go framework instance dot expressive emotes dot show expressive show menu. Yeah. Okay, and by it calling show menu, so let's go to that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over here just so we can follow the logic. Whoops, sorry, wrong screen, my bad. Okay, so our event is going to call show menu. Show menu goes here. Target, if we don't provide one, not a big deal. And this should load it from the XML. Oh, do I have the XML in its location? Okay, I'll need to look at that. But let's see what this does, though. I just want to see what happens. So if I press it right now, it's likely going to crash. Okay. So that's where we need to continue, is from the crash. Okay, so that is the XML tree. So that means it failed to load. It's telling me XML document load. Okay, so we need to put that XML file first in its correct location. Where does this, what's the path? File, where's it being loaded from? Okay, file, still going. Path, okay, that's what we need. Sorry, I keep forgetting which screen we're on. I was trying to just navigate backwards and figure out where it is. Okay, so it needs to be in folder XML. And the file name is expressive. Oh, I should be able to easily find it in my other project. Okay, so I need to open up the other one. Okay, just bear with me. Okay, so we need to open this project. I should probably close the other one. Having multiple Unity instances open with the new 2020.1 point whatever, there's some weird anomalies. you get some undesirable behavior. One of them being the camera, which just died out on me. Yeah, this is why I can't. So using your cell phone or a cell phone as a webcam definitely works if you're using applications like DroidCam and whatnot. But because they all use the same functionality, you can't really do it that well if you're developing. If you're a developer, it doesn't work. Your camera will keep on continuously getting disconnected, and it's a little unfortunate, but it's just kind of the way it is. Where's my other? Okay, so I will close that one. Nope, I want to discard. Let's snap that into place. Okay, so in this one, like I said, this is the same project. It's just that it was getting too messy, so I had to move all of this stuff into a new project and clean it all up, which is what I've been doing, and that's the project that I'm moving forward with. Okay, so I need to copy this folder. I need to copy the XML folder, which is found in resources. So we'll say show in Explorer. Now I'm just going to copy the whole folder because we're going to need everything that's in there anyway. So we'll go resources. Oh, XML exists, but it's empty. And it's an uppercase, not lowercase. Okay, then I'll just move this one in for now. And we'll move the rest of the stuff in over time. Okay, so that's our file. I find using a cell phone as a cam terrible. By the way, sorry about not saying bye the other day. I was on the phone when you left and in deep conversation. No worries, no worries. And there goes my cell phone again. So this is why I want to get a proper camera. I don't think I'm going to get a webcam. I did some research into it, and in actuality, a webcam doesn't make for a good webcam. Who knew? I know I didn't. So webcams have really poor quality video and poor quality audio, and they're severely overpriced. Like back in the day, it made sense like 10 or more years ago to get a webcam, right? But with technology, everything moves forward. The concept of a webcam and the quality of these things that are made and the lens and their ability to have, what do you call it? The color spectrum that it picks up is pretty poor. So in actuality, action cameras like a GoPro and others can be used as a webcam. You can get a used one on eBay, and you just need a capture card, which like a $20 Amazon special will do just fine. So you're paying like, a fraction of the price, and you're getting infinitely better results, which I didn't know about either, right? Because I was looking at webcams. So the usual, what's that traditional webcam that's used? So let's go to Amazon. Logitech, right. So all of these, they're terrible, right? Even when you get into the $300-400 premium webcam range, they're terrible in comparison of image quality. Like the Elgato Facecam, it's on discount now. That's because these things are being extinct. They're being completely wiped out, right? It's not worth $200, right? It's not worth $50, right? Because what you can do is you can buy an older GoPro. So an older GoPro 3, which is like from quite a while ago. Right now they're at GoPro 10. So you get a GoPro 3 used, right? What you need is to get a capture card. So you get one of these capture cards, right? I don't know which one is the best one, but like $10 or $20 capture card, you don't even need to spend 30, 40 bucks. Will work very well, right? And you just need to set up the output of the GoPro to give you a clean output, meaning you take away the user interface stuff off of it, right? So you hook up an HDMI cable, which is like another 10 bucks. So use GoPro, depending on how good of a deal you get on it. You can pick it up for anywhere between, like, let's say 30 and 50 bucks, right? One of these capture cards, you can get them for a reasonable price or buy a used one, again, on eBay, right? And a cable. So you're looking at about, let's say, $70 to $100, right? At its peak, right? $70 to $100, right? But the video quality that you get is drastically better than the best. So there's another one that came out that was a top tier webcam. I forget the name of it, but it was a super expensive one. Let's go to, you can't sort by, yeah, let's go 200 plus. Okay, these are not 200 plus. I clicked on 200 plus. So there's, okay, so this is one of them. So the OBS bot, not worth it. OBS bot tiny, not worth it. Zoom certified, not worth it. Not worth it. Definitely not worth it. None of these are worth it. Like the video quality that you get from a GoPro is just so much better, so much better. So that's something that I'm considering for the future. Oops, I didn't mean to close it. By the way, this is a drawing that one of our community members did for the project, which I thought was awesome. Those are the pets, and this is one of the female characters from Project CSK. So these are our pets. So yeah, I really like this drawing, and you can see the background is the environment from the game. Yeah, I really like it. Symbolically, it's awesome, and she did a really good job of drawing it too. And yeah, I like that kind of stuff. Yeah, so anyway, like I was saying, GoPro or one of the other knockoffs even are leagues ahead of webcams. Webcams are either they need to change the way that they do things, and they need to use proper hardware and bring their price down, because their price is just inflated. That's all it is. The hardware and the software that they use is not worth it. It's got a significant overage, as it's called in the business industry, which just is a nicer way of saying overcharge. And overcharge means, okay, so this costs us, let's say, $5 to make. But we have overhead costs to run a business. Okay, so let's say our overhead cost, we would be in the profits at about, $20, $30 per each one. But then we want to make, like, above that. That's where overage comes in, right? That's where you see these things being sold $100, $200, $300, $400, right? But the actual hardware itself, when you manufacture at mass scale, it comes down significantly. But I'm not going to get into that. I paid less than $100 for a Logitech webcam, and it's the best quality I've had, and I don't even have the 4K one. Yeah, they're good. I'm not saying that they're bad. What I'm saying is, in comparison, right? So even if you look at, or actually you can really get a good example of it by looking at YouTube comparisons, where you get either streamers or regular just vloggers or whomever that does product review. They will do a side-by-side comparison, and you can see there's a huge difference. And the number one thing that I find personally that webcams have difficulties with is that they blow out certain colors because they only see a certain color spectrum. I forget the right term of it, so you'll have to forgive me for that. But they only see a certain color spectrum. So anything outside of that spectrum gets completely blown out. Like usually highlights of where light is coming in and reflects off of something, even though it shouldn't be completely white, the webcam will pick it up as completely white in that area just because it doesn't have the color range to see those colors. So it doesn't turn out as well. But anyway, so that's another one of those things that I consider when I keep seeing my webcam be disconnected, which is an old cell phone that I'm using. But it works for now because what I'm using is, and I've showed you guys, at least I think I've showed it to you guys before. It's a really old cell phone that I put Lineage OS on it. I have it connected over USB, and I'm using DroidCam, the free version, on my computer to take that video input. And of course, you need to install the application on the phone itself to give you that video feed out. But it disconnects because it's an Android cell phone. I'm developing for Android. Unity uses those same APIs, right? So when it does a scan or something going on behind the scenes, it reconnects everything, right? So the phone will be connected still, but the application isn't designed to handle that disconnect and reconnect. Once it goes to disconnect, it will not reconnect on its own, and there's no way to set it to auto connect. So that's why I have to keep on manually doing it. But most monitors cannot show the spectrum, and it's recommended to use web safe colors when creating streaming games. Yes, you're not wrong, but there's more to it though. So I would highly recommend if you watch those YouTube videos, right, that do a comparison, you'll get a much better understanding. Like have a look at the Logitech C920 versus a GoPro used as a webcam, right? And you'll see a drastic difference, right? Because it's not what the monitor sees. Like the monitor is just a monitor, right? You're not. It's the webcam doesn't affect that. What the webcam sees is the person who's presenting it, right? Like for right now, the colors, like I know I'm seeing in like a tiny little square in the bottom of the screen, right? So the quality doesn't make that much difference, right? But it does to a certain degree. If you kind of nitpick at it a little bit, it does kind of stand out. And later on, like I was mentioning, I was thinking of kind of because I'm going to be revamping the broadcast periodically from time to time, right? And trying different things, seeing what works, see what doesn't work. And what I want to do is I want to try the green screen concept that I mentioned before later on, of course, not right now, and kind of bring myself in and see, there goes the camera again. I did nothing, and the camera just went out again. All right, so then I have to go back to DroidCam, tell it to rediscover, and then to take that video feed and bring it back in, right? So I don't want to have to keep doing that because sometimes I forget, like I'm programming and I completely forget about it, right? Because I tunnel vision on what it is that I'm doing, and the camera will be off for like, an hour or two during the broadcast, and I only notice it later, and I'm like, oh yeah, that happened again, right? So, now I do the camera thing for you guys, right? For those that are watching it live, because it gives you another layer of better interaction. You get to see who's behind the camera, who's behind the screen or whatever. And it allows you to see facial expressions. It allows you to kind of interact a bit better. And I like that too, right? Like when I watch streamers on YouTube or on Twitch, right? I like it when they have their camera on. Is it a deal breaker for me? Absolutely not, right? But some people prefer that versus not, right? So And I'd like to, it's a learning process too, right? And it's kind of fun. So I'd like to keep doing it. Um, you can take two different monitors side by side, have two different color because one is out of range. I experienced it out of time on web design. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, so what I think is what you're talking about is the calibration of the monitor, whereas what I'm referring to is the actual capturing of the individual per pixel, like a 1080 picture per pixel of what the camera sees, right? So if the source coming in is not great and some areas are blown out, that has nothing to do with the monitors. And I don't calibrate my monitors either. I don't bother because I dim them down. Like they are so dim to the point where most users who are sitting beside me, or if anyone is over my shoulder looking at what I'm doing, they can't see, but I see it perfectly clearly. Just because artificial light really, when it's very bright and in a dim area, it really bothers my eyes. My eyes are very sensitive to it. So I found that if I just dim it down to like, I turn brightness down, I turn all of the other settings pretty much down to the point where you can barely see it. But for me, it works very well because I see it clearly, and that's good enough. I don't care if it's not color calibrated because I'm not really a colors guy. But I definitely notice a difference of a picture that's taken at poor quality or a picture that's taken on high quality. The monitor will see the difference when you view the image, and that is not based on the output, that's based on the input of the camera that's capturing the image. So yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. No monitor can see the full spectrum. You're absolutely right. But I highly recommend watching the diff. You know what? Let's see if we can have a quick. Let's go to a Logitech C920 versus GoPro webcam. Let's see if we can, so this is probably not the best example. I don't know if you guys see the, or hear the audio, but so the colors, you can see this one here is the Hero 3. It's a very old camera, but this has much better color representation, whereas this one, even though it seems brighter, this is inaccurate coloring. This is not the best example, so let's see if I can find a better one. Nope. Interesting. I get way different results on this browser than I do my other browser. So this one is Brave and the other one is Firefox, and I get completely different results. That's so strange. Let's just go with webcam versus GoPro. Harris is actually pretty good. He's got some great information on a lot of the things that he does. No, I don't want to get into this. I'd rather just focus on what we're doing. But anyway, I'll leave that up to you. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't use a webcam. What I'm saying is, in the current day, if you have the option and you need a webcam, the better choice is to buy a used action camera instead of buying a webcam. I would absolutely recommend that. I don't agree. The C920 is better and shows the sharp light. The other camera is terrible and doesn't show the light properly. It wasn't calibrated. That's why I said it's not a good example of it. if you're interested, do your research and you'll come to the same conclusion. But I'll leave that part up to you. So let's move on though. What we got here is so I moved the XML file. Let's turn the controller back on. So let's see what happens when we press it. Oh. I was not expecting that. That's pretty cool. Okay, so here I was thinking I would have to actually implement logic to make this thing work. And just like that. Okay, so this would be the emote system, right? Of course, you're not supposed to be able to move, and it's not supposed to do, what do you call it? Action input when you press that, but this is pretty cool, right? So this is from the right. Oh, and when I press multiple, that's not supposed to happen. Whoops. Okay, I'll fix that though. But yeah, so this is kind of the general idea is that, like, for example, you're playing a game, or if someone comes into the game and you want to say hello. So you'd go to the greeting, right? And you say hello, right? Obviously, that's not working right now, but that's kind of the idea of it, right? And this is what I was talking about before, about building out a visual language, right? So you press the button, you can say, like, oh, someone wins a game, you can say cool or whatever, right? The rest of the functionality isn't implemented yet. But the first step is to get it to display this, which I didn't think it would work. I thought I'd have to go in and do some messing around to get it working. But so that actually works pretty good. What I shouldn't be able to do is this. So I'm pressing it repeatedly. It should actually collapse. So on first press, it should come up. If you press it again, I want it to collapse like that. So right now the other buttons are kind of working. So let's fix that. So we'll need to fix that, and we need to also stop the player character from moving when menu comes up. I still haven't implemented a proper system for that, because there's still more criteria that needs to be defined, but I think this is pretty cool though. So the way that this works, and you can see, right? So this is, you can do a lot of emotes. Like this is only at, how many is that? 9, right? So if you think about it, we could have nearly infinite number. I know infinite is not an accurate representation, but if you think about it, even if we only had 2 layers, right? So that would be 9, right? Multiplied by 9, right? As soon as you add a third layer, it becomes 9 times 9 times 9. You add 4 layers, right? It's 9 times 9 times 9 times 9. So it's to the power of whatever this number is. And this is 9. I could just as well make it 10, 15, 20, right? So that number gets to be pretty large, pretty fast. So there's no shortage of how many emotes we can have, right? Obviously, they need to be structured in a way that makes sense. Like right now, I consider these as some of them will be categories where others are specifically for use. Like this one, happy is a category. It goes into this, right? These are the individual nodes. They don't have children. They're not categories. You click on one of these, it's supposed to do that emote, right? So if you think about it, it's like a folder system. And if we open up this XML file, so this is how I structured it, right? So this is exactly the structuring that you see. So when we're going in and navigating through this stuff, so we have the parent node, but this, because this one has children, right? Then it can go in another layer. But these ones, since they don't have children themselves, these are an actionable item, right? And then there's other, each one of these, think about it, it's just a tree structure, right? And you can have nestings and subnestings and infinite subnestings. I designed it specifically for that, right? So then when you want to add more, right, I just need to make sure that the graphic is there, right? And then I can just choose where in the structure and which category I want them to fall under, right? That way it'll allow for really easy modification after the fact. Let's say you want to reparent something, you just go modify the XML and it just reparents it. There's no code modification required because the code part is already done, right? And you can have infinite number, so it's recursive logic. You can have infinite number of nestings. I know I throw the word infinite around. I don't actually mean we're ever going to use an infinite number. It would be great, though. I think it would be great, like much farther down the line, if we could have something like 1,000 emotes. I know that's a lot. That would be very expensive too. But I think that would be really fun, though. To have, and it would kind of build out this visual language, right? So for example, when someone comes in and they want to say hi, right, you can go in and you can say go into there was one that was greeting, greeting, so you can say hello, right? Or if there's another one where you want to say goodbye, or you want to say whatever you want to say, right? You can do that. And it's got these nice little transitions, and this works really well for touch screen, right? And that's why I went with the circular design, because these are buttons, right? So this would be your finger input, right? And the way that it works is you click on it and it goes in layer. You click outside of that area, it goes back one layer. So it's single finger. And it will, it works really well. It's really intuitive. So the emote will really increase everything on the game. Yeah, I called it the expressive emote system, but really it's a visual language is what I'm trying to build. And like I was saying before, this language will cross boundaries of current limitations of language. Like, let's say you and I speak different languages, as an example, right? Let's say you speak French, right? And your English may not be so great, as an example, of course, right? I speak English, right? We will not be able to communicate that well, but you don't need to, because with an emote, you can pretty much, like, you can communicate a brief sentence or throw emotes together and make something up, right, that the other person can interpret regardless of the language that they speak or understand, right? Not only that, but it's also easy for let's say the younger audience, right? Let's say someone down the line, and I have to consider these things because I had to consider them before, is under the age of being able to chat online, right? So their parents will allow them to play the game, right? But they don't want them to communicate with others, right? So the parents can create the account or go in there and age restrict the account. So then the individual playing on that account, they can't text, right? So they can't send messages through the message system, but they can still communicate through the emote system, right? So it kind of is a really good solution. Of course, it needs to be improved on and whatnot, but the possibilities that it opens up are really awesome. And it brings a lot to the project as a whole. And yeah, other games have similar types of things, but one, I have not seen this kind of an awesome circular navigation before. I've seen similar, but I have not seen quite something like this implemented in this way. This is definitely unique. And this is the same navigation I use throughout the rest of the game UI, right? So the user is going to be familiar with it. Just by using the other UI, they're going to be familiar with using this navigation. So yeah, I think it's going to be great. Okay, so we got it displaying right now. What we need to do is we need to restrict movement. So we need to restrict movement and we need to prevent duplicate. Okay, so let's see what we can do about that. So when we go here and we say show menu, what this really should be is toggle menu. So instead of show menu, do I not have a toggle one? I thought I had a toggle. Because if we have a toggle, then when you press it, if it's showing, it'll show. If it's not, then it'll collapse. Okay, so we don't have a toggle. What we'll need to do is we'll need to add a toggle function. So show menu, I'll just put it in here. So public void toggle. Yeah, let's do. I'm just thinking maybe toggle might not be what we're looking for, but let's go with toggle menu. Right. I want to pass in target just in case it is a show. So that's optional. So if it's going to be a show, check if menu is already active. If active, remove. If not active, show. Okay, so that's what we need. But we already have this clear. I think that's what we can do is we can use the selection IDs. Okay, let's see. Where do we use that? Where do we clear it? There should be a clear somewhere. Show menu. Show menu. Oh, okay, so there's our remove. Okay, so when we go to remove, we call this. Okay, so I'll need to. Okay, so that's a layer remove. I want to see, how do we remove the whole thing? Interesting. Do we just not remove? How does that work? I thought there would be a clear somewhere of these IDs. So the IDs, they represent a ring. Every ring has an ID associated with it, right? It allows you to uniquely identify that individual nesting of the ring, because you can have one ring, you can have 10 rings, you can have 100 rings. And then each one of those rings has index positions, 0 to 9 or whatever, or IDs for those specific actions, right? But so this ID of the ring we get when we call for show selection menu. And we get that returned and we store it in here. So then there really should be a clear. Because what happens when we clear all of it? That's interesting. I don't see a clear. Okay, so I'll need to add a clear function. No, it doesn't make sense. How do I clear then? How do we clear? Because there's a button set to clear. When you press it, it collapses all of it. So how does that work? I don't remember. Even though I made this stuff, I don't remember this stuff, right? Because after a while, like when you write like, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of line of code, you're not going to remember everything. Okay, so let's go over here. Where are we? Circular menu. Okay, let's go and open this guy up. So where is the clear? Okay, so on input quaternary is the clear. So what happens? Exit with transition. Oh, okay. It's because I use transition, so then this functionality is over here, and it goes through its groups and then removes all of them. I see. But it doesn't clear the IDs though, which I find a little strange. Okay, so that means that was logic that I never, I didn't foresee at that time. So what we do need is we do absolutely need a clear. Where are we? Oh, wrong. Circular. Nope, don't want that. We want to go back here. XML tree. Let's collapse that. Don't need that open. Resources, we don't need that right now. I just want to collapse some of the stuff that I'm not going to be using right away, and then we'll look at it and see what we do need. Okay, so what we do know is I really should have bookmarked it. Okay, so toggle menu, we will bookmark that. We will call public void clear menu. So we'll have show expressive emote. If we have a show, it should be called remove. Oh, it is show menu. Okay. So if it's show menu, then it is clear menu. Not sure what happened there. Okay, and then so our toggle then will check if else, and we'll know it's showing if we have IDs. If we have IDs, then we know it's showing. So if this dot length dot count, sorry, if count greater than 0, right? If count is greater than 0, then we know we have it, so we'll call clear. However, if count is less than, if count is less than or equal to 0, then we'll call show. Yeah. Oops. What am I doing? Okay, and then we'll pass that target ID in. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to call toggle So what we need then is we need to implement clear. Show we already have. What we need to do is call clear menu. So clear, we will need to dispatch an event. We'll need to dispatch an event, and we will need to clear this. Dispatch event, remove no. Expressive dispatch event, expressive emote, remove. Or it should be emotes. Emotes remove or hide even. Either way, it's fine. Okay, so we need that event. Where's our dispatch? Usually at the bottom. Okay. So we'll say private void. Whoops. It doesn't need to take anything. What it will do is it will just dispatch an event. The color is going to be this. Or dispatcher is going to be this. So then we just need an event ID to go with it. Okay. Ah, my fingers are all over the place. Okay. So there's our event. That's how the menu is going to know how to clear. So on on the second time, it'll do that. Okay, so we need to implement that. Of course we do. So we need to go to, where was that? Circular menu. So we need to go back to here, and we need to listen in for that event, the clear event. So it'll be a single framework instance, event manager, add event listener. It'll be event manager, and it was the remove expressive emote, and who's going to dispatch it? It's going to be single framework instance dot expressive emotes, and the function to call is going to be handle expressive emotes remove. Okay, and then because we added it, we need to remove it as well. Okay, and then let's create that function. Okay, so where do we want to put that function? Let's go put it right below this one here. Okay. So then when it gets to here, what we wanted to do is we want to use that transition logic that it has. There was a exit with transition. That's it. That's exactly what I want to do. Okay. So yeah, that should hopefully clear both of them correctly. We'll see. If it crashes, of course, I'll address it. But I think that should allow us to toggle. So from this point, let's go and see it in action. Okay, so first press comes up, second press, not what I was thinking. I don't know what it's doing, but it's, wait, no, it is creating a new ring, is it not? Oh, on every second press. Okay, I know what I did. Okay, that's my bad. So what happened is, at least I think I know. So when we call toggle, what's happening is, actually, no, I don't know. Let's figure it out. If count is greater than 0, and we're calling toggle menu, we want it to clear the menu. If it's less than, we want it to show the menu. Okay, let's get rid of that. We'll bring this in here, and we'll say request ID count. I want to see what the count is. And then at this condition, it should be 0 anyway. So we'll say this one is the show menu. So if it's greater than 0, we call clear. If it's less than or equal to 0, it wouldn't be less than, it would be equal to 0. We would call show menu. Okay, I just want to see what the outputs are to get a better understanding of why it's behaving like that. Because right now, every second press brings it up. So that would mean one press goes and brings it up. So count is 0. Second press, count is 1. Request ID count is 1, but it should have, cannot show emote because iModel data is null. That's nothing. Okay, so then the next one is going to be 0 again. I'm not sure what I did wrong there. I do think this is working. This logic here, I think, is pretty straightforward and it's working. What I think is on this side, on the receiving end, that's what's not working correctly. So let's see, let's just double check before we move on though. So we're calling toggle. There's only one reference call to it. We're not calling show yet. So then from here, what we're doing is saying list menu actions selection request. If count is greater than 0, clear the menu. So this is where it's not working. We'll get to that. Otherwise, show the menu. Showing the menu works. It's the clearing menu that doesn't work. Okay, so when we call clear menu, we dispatch event called dispatch event emote remove, and we clear this. Let's not clear this and see what happens. Let's not clear it and see what happens. So then we go here and we call, yeah, okay, that's, did we not add a, oh, that's what I did wrong. Okay, so I added remove to the show and I have show on the remove. So when I was copying and pasting, I wasn't watching what I was doing. Okay, so that's what happened. Where's remove? Oh, okay, I see. Okay, so I think that's what happened is that I added the event, I gave the IDs and everything, but I just didn't I wasn't paying attention. I was copying and pasting and just moving too fast. Okay, so then let's put this back again. Okay. Let's see what it does. Okay, so first press, second press, first press, second press, first. Okay, so that's it. It's just because I was dispatching the wrong event ID. But so this is exactly the behavior that I want. That way the animation plays in reverse, right? Because I got all this animation logic stuff for the bringing in the rings and all of that. I wanted to preserve that, right? So on first press, it comes in and then it goes up. But if you interrupt it, right, you still get that nice transition because it interrupts the animation partial way and it'll play it in reverse, right? So then if we bring it in, go in another one, and then press it again, so it's the same as canceling it. Okay, so that works. So I'm happy with that. I think that looks pretty good. So next thing is to go and prevent input movement when it's up. So what I've been doing is I'm trying to move more of this logic into scriptable objects because I've been relying on my singleton framework a lot. And from my understanding, relying on a singleton is kind of frowned upon in certain development communities because of the way that it locks you in. You're reliant on the framework, right? And that framework needs to initialize first. So there's this whole order of execution for the framework to exist, which is why you see me do a lot of this stuff, right? Like all this stuff. This is all because of the way it's reliant on the framework. The framework has to, on startup, it has to load. Once it's loaded, all the different components are available, or all the different managers and subsystems are available. And then on destroy, because it's being destroyed, there's a process of destruction. It needs to destroy in order as well, right? So there's some odd behavior that comes from it, right? So if I can move away from storing this stuff into a singleton, right, it might be better, right? So what I'm thinking is the menu being up. So this information at, where were we? Right here. So on menu clear and on menu show, on clear, we would update the scriptable object and say, and it'll be a very simple scriptable object, and it'll say that menu is not up, or menu is collapsed or hidden, or whatever you want to call it, right? And then on show, we would update it and say visible. So then I could read that very easily from anywhere, right? And I could just reset that value just as easily as well because it's in a scriptable object, right? If you're not familiar with scriptable objects, you're not alone. I'm not great with them either. So we're on the same page, but I understand the concept of them. The advantage with scriptable objects is that it's a persistent object. Even when you exit the application, what you wrote into the scriptable object is still going to be there on next startup. So if I say menu is visible, right? And I exit, but then I don't say menu visible equals false on exit. When I exit and reopen the application, it's still going to say visible is true, right? That's my understanding of it, right? So there's some benefits there. There's a lot of benefits. I like them. It use less resources. Yes, I've heard about that too. Again, I'm not too familiar with it. I've heard really good things. That's why Unity is really pushing for scriptable objects, as they are serialized objects, and there is a lot of benefits to using them. Like I did my whole, I redid the object pool system to use a scriptable object. Let's wait for Unity. So when I went and last time I modified it and I went to resources, where was my pool stuff? I think I put it here. Yeah, so pool lookup table. So this is a scriptable object, right? And all it does is it stores a bunch of IDs and the prefab that I wanted to point to. So I can easily modify this. This is not reliant on anything. Other things are reliant on this, and you can change the information in real time. And if we open it up and go into it, there really isn't much to it. It's very simple. It's got a nested class, sure, but it's basically a list with a dictionary, and it just does its thing. It doesn't use mono behavior, meaning it doesn't need to be on the stage. It's not attached to a game object, none of that stuff. So there's some serious benefits to using it. Likely some of you who are watching now, or some of you that will be watching later on YouTube, are a lot more familiar with scriptable objects than I am. But I think I want to try it and see. So if it works well here, then I'm going to be using a lot more of them. And I do mean a lot more, because there's a lot of stuff that I store in different places in the Singleton framework. But if I can deviate from that and have them be self-reliant, or not so much reliant on the framework, that would be great. I'd like that. So let's kind of start that trend off. So what we'll do is, one thing I've noticed is I don't have a scriptable object folder. So what we'll do is we'll go and create one, and then I need to move. So I was planning on moving. So this one here is actually not a singleton. It's a scriptable object, but I didn't have anywhere to put it at the time. So I just kind of stuck it here with this other stuff. But in actuality, what it should be is we should have a folder that we can call SO. No, I think we'll just call it what it is. Scriptable objects. Right? And then that's where the objects are going to end up. However, the scripts themselves, the actual C# files, those will be in the scripts folder. So this is where the instances will go. And we can move our singleton one. And this will be our first one that goes into there. This will, of course, break, because this is, the reference to that is stored. Where did I store that? I think I stored that in my config. let's just make sure that it's working first. And then we'll continue to make some more stuff in there. Okay, so that crashed it. I think I spelled that folder wrong. Scriptable objects. Did I spell that wrong? Yes, I did. Okay, so we'll just grab it from here. Go over here and just paste it. Yeah, I can see I spelt it wrong. Okay, I want to just test it before I move on. The spelling mistakes are very easy to make, and I make them all the time. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that works. Let's go to over here. That pool one is, I'll move that as well. So we'll create a new folder. Okay, so this is where we're going to put our scriptable objects. I should move that pool one in here too. Okay, so this one will be our first new one that we're adding in. So this one is going to be called what do we want to call it? Circular menu something? I'm just trying to think, because we're going to store are we going to store circular menu? Or do we want to store specifically expressive emotes? I don't know if I want to combine them at this time. I'll likely combine some of this stuff to streamline it a bit, but for right now, I'm just trying to think of what can we call this that would be appropriate. So what's it going to be used for? It'll be used at this time to just store the status of the circular menu. Okay, so then we wouldn't be using it from here. We would be using it from here. Come on. Nope. Okay, so from here. Yeah, okay. So that would make it more generic. And generic is fine. So it would then be not from the expressive emote, because the expressive emote goes to this manager. And this one is the one that results in wait, did I do that right? I think I overlooked a detail there. Expressive emote removed. Yeah. Okay, so this should have actually gone through here and called the remove, if there is one. Top layer remove. Get next. Is there a remove? Okay. I guess not. Okay, so I definitely need to do some cleanup, but I believe it actually shouldn't be updated from the expressive emote for expand and collapse. It should be done from the manager that's responsible for the circular menu. So we will call it circular selection menu. Yeah, actually that matches the name of the prefab as well. Let's go with that. Okay. And it will be extending from scriptable object. Let's just move this over here to the side. I don't believe it has start and update. Or does it? I forget, because I remember scriptable objects, they have certain behaviors, but they don't have certain behaviors as well. It's not the exact same as a mono behavior. So let's see, what did I do with the other one? Where's my lookup? Oh yeah, I always forget about this. Right, and I need to say namespace. So we'll give it a namespace. We'll put it in the right menu structure. So it'll be that, and then it will be scriptable objects, and then it will be yeah, then it will be circular selection menu. Okay, so it does have on destroy. I just don't remember if it has start or not. So let's look at it. Is it behavior? I forget. Actually, let's just look at the API now that I think about it. I think that makes more sense. Then we'll see what it has. Okay, so it has awake, on disable, on enable, on validate, reset, and it inherits some properties. So it does have destroy, which is good. So we will use, what I'm thinking is we will use the destroy. So we'll use on destroy. And then what else do we want? I think really that's the only one I care about right now. We can use on enable and on disable, but I don't think I'll be using it. However, I'll put it here just for later reference. But I'm not going to be using them. So I'm just going to disable these for now. Okay, so how are we going to do this? It will be I think I want to make it a just because I want to be able to see it, serialized field. So we'll say private Boolean menu um, ex- expanded. No, menu visible. And we'll say false by default. And then on the destroy, we will say false again, just so it clears it on exit. And then we want to expose this, so Control RE. I want to expose that. I don't like this. Okay. So we have menu visible. So that should be persistent. So then the idea is that when visibility changes, yeah. But then we'll need to load this though. So each resource that wants access to this is going to have to get a reference to this scriptable object. But before that, we need to create it too. So what we'll do is we'll go into our resources, scriptable objects, create scriptable objects. Okay. And yeah, so there's our scriptable object. I think this is going to be the right approach personally. Time will tell, but I think this is going to be the right approach. So there's going to be a lot of scriptable objects in this folder, and that's all they're going to do. They're just going to be persistent information. But we do need to be able to load and access them. So for that, what we can do is we can just do a simple resource load. Yeah, we can do a resource load, or we can go through our resource no, I want to avoid the resource manager. Or do we? Because if we avoid the resource manager, each entity that wants to access it will have to load it on its own, right? But if we centralize that, then we can go through the resource manager, which kind of makes sense. So then it's all in one location, and we just pull it once. And the resource manager can also hold the reference to it, so we can just grab that reference. That kind of makes more sense. It'll be optional. But then what would happen is that the more of these we add, then the resource manager is going to get to be bigger, bigger, and bigger for every single scriptable object. So maybe we figure out some kind of a system. We could put their path into the config. So the way that that would work is scriptable objects as an example. So it'd be a public constant string scriptable object. This one was called circular selection menu. So path to SO. So then all of these would be here, and then our resource manager would just be past this. It would load it and then store the reference in a dictionary. So then if any other object goes to access it, they're going to use this from the config, and it would pull it from the dictionary. So it wouldn't cascade into this huge thing. And because it's in a dictionary, it'd be easy access. I think that would work. And I like dictionaries because they're efficient. They're not great for looping through them, of course, when you have a lot of entries. But I really like dictionaries because of the you can just access the object from the key. It doesn't matter how many entries there are. It could be 5, 10, or 10,000. Your access speed is going to be the same. I really like that about dictionaries. Okay, so if we were to go with this concept, then that would mean that the selection menu would need access. Yeah, I'm not thinking clearly right now to see the potential flaws with this system. I have a feeling I'm overlooking some stuff though. There's going to be some details that'll need to be ironed out, but I don't think I need to go to that level of logic just yet. I need to figure out the criteria of what's needed first, and then figure out the solution after everything's been defined. I think that's what I'm going to do. So this whole scriptable thing, we'll leave it. Okay, so we'll leave that there. Our game selection menu, this should be doing the sorry, I'm just not thinking clearly right now. My ability to do logic degrades as the night goes on. And usually on Friday nights is probably not the best time for my logic, but it's when I have time to do broadcasting and work on the project. So if I wasn't broadcasting, I'd still be working on the project, but I'd likely be researching more into shaders. That's likely what I would be doing. Okay. So that's our scriptable object that we don't need right now. We don't need that right now, or that. Let's move our scriptable object over to this side. And then Fridays were my night out when I was younger, but now it's my zombie night where I turn into one. I know exactly what you mean. I used to, like when I was young, I used to also go hang out with my friends and just all kinds of stuff and stay up late. But I can't do that anymore. It just doesn't work out. And I really feel the psychological exhaustion after a full work week, I really feel it on the Friday night. Um, that's why I crash so hard usually at Friday night, and then get a really good rest and wake up on Saturday and feel pretty good about it. It's Yeah, it's definitely noticeable, but like at the same time though, Friday nights, like I would like to be entertained or do something fun, whether it's maybe watch a movie or do something for a little bit before I go to bed, right? So I generally would like to do that. Like Friday night is usually what ends up being my movie night. Sometimes after when I'm done broadcasting, because I'm tired, but I'm not quite tired enough to go to bed. Right? I'll browse the internet, maybe watch some streams for a little bit, or if there's a movie or something, I'll watch a movie on Netflix or some other form of entertainment for a period of time, and then I'll go to bed. I don't get entertained too easily these days. Yeah, I know that feeling all too well as well. Because you can only watch so many movies, right? After you've seen so many movies, after X amount of years, there's this repeating pattern, right, of different genres of different movies. Each one of them fits into their own little category, right? You're gonna have the good guy, you're gonna have the bad guy, you're gonna have the hot girl, you're gonna have, the plot. It's gonna have a start, it's gonna have a peak, and then it's gonna end, right? It's it's still entertaining. It is, but not in the same way that it used to be when I was younger. When I was younger, I was actually really interested in movies. Nowadays, I would say I still get interested about games, but I don't have the time for it. For me to get into a game, right? I need to take time off, let everything wind down, like mentally and psychologically, let everything wind down for like a good week or two. And then when I'm nice and relaxed, I'll be able to enjoy playing games. But I'm never going to get that kind of time off, like ever, right? Like, uh, it just hasn't happened in the past decade or more, and I don't see it happening anytime in the foreseeable future, right? So, unfortunately, I can't because I just don't have that kind of time. But there's games. There's a lot of good games out there that I would think I would get a lot of entertainment value from. From the story or gameplay mechanics, or if it's a multiplayer game, just from the social interactions and whatnot. But to get into it, it's an investment, right? It's an investment of your time, it's an investment of your mental energy, right? And it's an investment in doing that routine so you can get the benefits out of it, because if you don't make the investment, you don't get the results, right? So it's unfortunately the way it is when you get older. Responsibilities and commitments pretty much get prioritized over everything else. So, for better or for worse, that's how it is. Okay, let's see if I can get this a little bit farther before my brain completely just kind of walks out on me and says I'm not doing this anymore for tonight. Okay, so what do I want to do? Wow, logic is really hard right now. Okay, what do I want to do? I want to, um, from here, I need to have a reference to the scriptable object, this one here. Actually, it doesn't even need to load it. It's a scriptable object. I can drag and drop it. Let's try that actually. So if we make this, um, a serialized field and say private okay, so if we no, we can't because this object no, because this is not a mono behavior, so this is not going to work. This has to be loaded. Okay. So we could load it on the construct. Let's just put it here for now. So this equals resources dot load and it will load this. Resources dot load. Did I do that wrong? I think I did that wrong. I think I did that wrong. No, I guess I got it. Actually, I don't need this if I'm already telling it what type it is. I will move this later, of course. I will move this later, but for right now, I just want to see it kind of working. Sometimes I comment out what I want the code to do before I try to write the code. Yeah. I agree. Writing pseudo code logic definitely is a good method. I 100% agree with you. Right now, I'm just really feeling the exhaustion. So my pseudo code logic would be just as flawed as me writing the code. So I may as well write the code. But no, I do agree though. That is definitely a better method. So when we load this here, then on expand, so visible equals true here. And then what we need is a collapse. Oh, right, we don't have it. Because I want to have a function here. Oh, and hello and welcome, by the way, HP Lovecraft. Welcome to the broadcast. First time. Cool. You're experiencing Friday Night Zombie mode set in. Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that one. And I find that it's like the way that it feels is like you want to do something and you're committed to do something, but you're swimming against the current. That's probably the better example I can give, is that you're swimming against the current and it's more difficult because of the exhaustion, right? If it wasn't for the exhaustion, it would be significantly easier and there would potentially be no current and the current might be behind you. But because of the Friday night as it is, you're going against it. I think that's a relatively accurate analogy of it. Okay, so we need inside of here is we need a clear. Okay, so this function is not used yet, but this one will be our false value for the scriptable object. So we load it, and I'm really thinking this load could be done on the load manager. That way the path and everything can be set there. But for right now, it's going to be scriptable objects slash name of this thing. Okay, so let's just see it in action. The clearing will not work, but I can just manually set it. I'm pretty new, though, been doing game dev for a year. How often do you take breaks? That's up to you, but I would recommend taking breaks regularly, especially for your hands. You don't want carpal tunnel, right? So just even if you take your hands off the keyboard once an hour and just kind of shake it off and let the blood flow properly. For programming, though, I find that oftentimes the best way for me to do complex logic is to not be in front of a computer at all and just walking around, whether you're taking a shower or you're in bed or whatever. I find oftentimes I do really good like solving of challenges and whatnot during those times. But when I'm programming, it all depends though, because sometimes I get into the zone, right? And when you're in the zone, right, logic just flows so well. It's not going to be perfect, but it flows so well. But when you're not in the zone, it's like you're struggling with it, right? Again, it's like you're going against the current, right? You're trying to change the current for the current to be behind you to help you move forward, but you can't always achieve that because it's just not going to work out that way. But to answer the question, how often do I take a break? Personally, I would prefer to take a break and just step away from it every 1 to 2 hours, roughly. Once every 1 or 2 hours. But when I'm broadcasting, of course, I'm just my break will be at the end of the broadcast, unless it's a really long broadcast. I did do those for a short period of time. I did some 8-hour like broadcasts, but that was I found that it was okay. But one, it's really difficult to make that kind of time, right? And two, it's exhausting to be broadcasting and talking and programming for an extended period of time. It's really exhausting. I have yet to see Des take a break. That's maybe true, possibly. Once I feel that I have a solution, I won't stop until it's working. That's both a good thing and a bad thing. Because sometimes when you have the solution, you have a solution, not the solution, right? And you won't find out that you have a solution and not the solution until you get much, much farther into it. So you're sitting there for like, 3, 4 hours and you're thinking that you have the solution, right? But as you're implementing the solution, you're realizing that you don't have the complete solution. You have a part of a solution, all right? So we've all done that. Every single one of us, especially me. I know I've done that countless times. I have a rebounder and strap set to hanging on my wall I use for my breaks. Usually one exercise every 20 to 40 minutes. That's a really good idea, actually. Do you have times where you talk to chat that can be like a break? Yeah, it is, but at the same time, I'm trying to solve what's in front of me, right? So yes and no. I just published my first demo last week. Well, that's great. If you don't mind me asking, what is it that you published? I'm assuming it's the game, though I could be wrong with that assumption. I think breaks are really good. Like I have, and I know I keep telling myself I need to do it more, but I have like a pull-up bar that I got some time ago. Great investment, by the way. And I try to do it more often, but I find myself not doing it as much as I would like to do, right? So it's one of those things where you have the best intention, and the best intention gets you good results, but it doesn't always work out in the way you want it to, if that makes sense. Oh, it's on itch.io. Okay. I don't mind taking a quick peek. I will be putting this project on itch.io at some point, but we're just not there yet. Glyphstone demo. Interesting. So it's a 3D puzzle game. Okay. So you made it in Unity and you created the models in Blender. Cool. I like it. What's this? Oh, you got a video. Okay. Whoops. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do that. Okay. So that definitely looks interesting. I'm not sure what the logic is exactly, but I like your UI. It's got a nice little touch to it. Looks interesting. Okay. That looks cool. No, I think that's a great demo. Well done. Oh my God, Des is taking a break. Yeah, yes and no. I'm trying to figure out how I can do this, but at the same time, I do enjoy interacting with you guys, and I like it when you guys come hang out and we can get a little bit of conversation going back and forth because this is an opportunity for me to learn too, right? Like I learn from a lot of different sources, one of them being you guys. You remove all the stones except for one, and you discover the exalted stones by combining the elemental stones. Okay. That sounds like an interesting concept. The demo is a miniature quest to complete the trial of the four elements. Okay. And I notice it's got a bit of a Egyptian vibe thing to it as well. I could be wrong on that, but at least that's what I got from it. I think it's a cool concept. I'm assuming you did all the artwork and all the everything yourself, including the programming. You get transported to distant past to do quests for the goddess asset. I did all of it myself. Okay, cool. Good for you. Okay, controllers off. Okay, that didn't work. I was expecting for this to change status. So what happened there? Did it crash? Nope. No crash. So if that was changed to visible equals true, we did call show selection menu from here. Show selection. Oh, I remember. I didn't. I need to streamline that. I have some legacy code in this thing that I need to clean up. Okay. So that should work on display of the first ring. I did all of it myself. It's ancient Egypt with hieroglyph symbols. Yeah, yeah. I thought it looked Egyptian in nature. It's a cool concept. Okay, so if we press this button, nice. Okay, that's what I wanted to see right there. Of course, on pressing it a second time, we don't have a clear yet, but so that means the scriptable object method would work, and it would probably work very well. So then on destroy, that's not destroy. It's still visible. Oh, on destroy, wait, we don't destroy scriptable objects. Destroy would mean delete. We don't destroy. It would be on disable. I think it's going to be on disable. Let's try that. So if we run it, it's checked. It disabled. Okay, but if we bring it up and then stop it. Okay, I don't get it. Okay, then so we'll have to manage the status of it externally. I can't rely on these events internally. I like arcane magic type stuff. My next game is likely to be a tower defense based on spell system and all spell damage types. That sounds cool. No, that's good. No, absolutely. Go with what you like and continue to learn, right? Because that's really important. Because the more you learn, right, the more cool stuff you can make, and the more you can push the boundaries of your comfort zone, right? And then those boundaries that you push out, right, eventually those become your comfort zone, and you get comfortable inside of those boundaries. And then you keep pushing it more and more and more, and before you know it, you're making like some seriously cool stuff. So absolutely keep up with it. We all start somewhere. I know I started with the most basic of things, and eventually over many, many years, learned more complex things in certain categories, but I definitely have a lot more to learn myself, and I'm looking forward to learning it. And I think I'll be able to make even more cool stuff in the future as I learn more. Like when I was talking about shaders and whatnot at the start of this broadcast, I'm definitely looking to do more of that stuff too. And there will be some really cool outcomes that come from it. But yeah. My weakest area is social media marketing. Ah, yes. I think we're all on the same boat on that one. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy because you have to make something, from my understanding, you have to make something that's appealing to the broader audience so it can go viral, even though I don't like that term myself. But to make something go viral, it needs to meet certain criteria. And it definitely helps if you happen to know individuals who can, who have an audience specifically for what it is that you're making, right? Because different people have different interests, so they'll generally go towards what their interest is, and they'll form these little groups. So it's an interesting challenge, but I think having it up on itch.io is a good start. I would definitely recommend itch.io, Steam. If since you're making it in Unity, you can export it and put it on other platforms. Like let's say Android, iOS, and whatnot, and the list just goes on. They say that games can't sell themselves anymore, too saturated. A lot of people say a lot of different things, and I'm not one to tell you that you should do this or you should do that. You're going to have to experiment, just as me. I'm in the same boat as you on that. There's a lot for me to learn. What you don't want to do is take all of your budget of whatever you're thinking you want to spend towards the game and put it all towards marketing. Don't do that. Don't do that. What I would highly recommend is just learn, continue to put stuff on itch.io, show people that you can make cool stuff, right? And eventually you'll slowly start to build an audience for what it is that you're making. Like, for example, if you're making a type of game that's, let's say, first-person shooter, your audience is, of course, going to be first-person shooter individuals. So that's your target audience. How do you reach those people, right? Those are questions you need to ask yourself, right? And games, because there's so many games out there right now, your game needs to have something unique. And what that unique thing is entirely up to you. It's because you that makes it unique, right? And an idea is just an idea, right? It's the execution of that idea that makes it unique, right? So, for example, if you make a Mario side-scroller jumping game and 10 other people make a Mario side-scrolling jumping game, right? You're all making a Mario side-scroller jumping game, right? But every single one of those is going to be very different from the other one because each individual has a unique outlook, a unique lens that they see it, and a unique execution as a result of that. So then it comes down to, well, there's different factors. Of course, time and effort that you put into something really shows, right? How much time and effort you put into something. If you just throw something together and you just copy and pasting stuff that's on the internet, and you're using assets that are on the internet that are free, it's not going to stand out, right? But if you put the time and effort and you build something that stands out because of its visual aesthetics or because of its unique mechanics, it can get recognized. I'm not saying it will, but what I'm saying is that it has a much better chance of standing out from the rest of them. Right? Because right now, games is one of the biggest industries on the face of the planet, right? It's bigger than the movies industry. It's bigger than the music industry. It wasn't always so, but it's only getting bigger, bigger, and bigger as time goes on. So finding your audience is an interesting challenge, and that's one that I don't think anyone really has the answer for it. Like, you could, of course, always go for a publisher, but then a publisher may or may not also be the path you want to go. There's an interesting tutorial, now that I think about it, for it's an interesting guide. What was that guy's name? Just give me a second. I can't remember it right now. So there's this other streamer. He's really good at development and whatnot. He he made this website specifically to help individuals like you and me to better understand the different steps and options that you have for developing. I think his name is Thor, and I think it's Go Pirate Software or something. Give me a sec. Okay. So it's the guy who made this game. He made a website called something games. Where's that website that he made? It's on here somewhere. At least I thought it was here. But anyway, he made this website that's specifically for helping individuals get started. Stream software, donate, Crosshair, Discord, Twitter, about us, Humble Bundle, YouTube, merch, fan art, buy the game. Yeah, okay. So I don't see the link in here, but I know he made this website. But he's really good at programming, and he's an excellent talker. Like, he's got a really nice radio voice. But yeah, so that guy, he made this website specifically for that. If you can find it, I would recommend it's worth a good read. I only had a quick glance at it myself, but it covers some important topics that are worth considering from someone who's experienced from working on different stuff. And he worked on like Blizzard, on World of Warcraft, and a bunch of other industries. And eventually he went indie and started making his own stuff. I'm setting the puzzle game aside because the market is way too saturated for puzzle casual. That's up to you. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you should do what you're passionate about, and ask yourself, what is your goal at this point? Is your goal to continue to improve and learn, or are you looking to make a product to generate revenue? Because those are very different goals, right? And me, I don't go for the second one currently. I'm I'm doing it for educational purposes, mostly for myself and for the community that I'm slowly building up. So you need to ask yourself what your goals are. Um, I feel like there's a decent fan base for tower defense, and there are not a lot of true TD on tower defense on Steam for PC. You may be right on that. I can't say one way or another, but you definitely would not be in the wrong to want to make something and see if it works out or not. The best way you'll know is if you try it out. You sound like you could make some good YouTube content. It's interesting that you say that. I actually made a YouTube video, and the other guy who's here with us told me that I talk way too fast, which is funny because I think I talk rather slow, and I intentionally wanted to talk faster to keep the momentum of the video going, right? So here I am thinking I'm doing the right thing, and apparently I still have a lot to learn. I need to make a little bit of money while I improve. That's a common mindset. Um, it's a common mindset, but if you're looking to make money and you're looking to learn, I would say maybe consider working for a company then, or doing subcontract work, or on itch.io, or join some kind of game jams or something, right? To learn, because learning is so important. It is so important for you to be able to not just do what you want to do, but eventually be able to generate revenue from that, right? Because I do like the programming stuff that you see me do. I do this for fun. I do this on my spare time, right? My regular form of employment has nothing to do with this, right? And maybe you need that separation, maybe you don't. I don't know. Every person's scenario is different. But for me, I find that it helps to not try to attach generating money or monetization to the project of what I'm making. It frees it up and allows me to be very creative and do whatever I want and not really care too much. I mean, of course I care, but not care about making revenue, but instead care about other things like learning game mechanics and continuing to improve and implement more cool stuff that I think other people will enjoy when this becomes playable. And that's going to be quite a while away, but then I'm not rushed to do anything, right? I'm okay. So you need to figure out a solution that works for you. I didn't hear a word he said and see a thing he did. You talk pretty slow. I would increase the playback speed if I were watching on YouTube. See, one guy agrees with me. So clearly, if one person agrees with me, then they must be right. I said, what the heck was that? Yeah. This is my career. So I have to learn the marketing while I improve at the game dev. Yeah, I mean, everyone's scenario is different. Don't take my word as an absolute. You're going to have to experiment and learn for yourself, right? And you're going to find there's a lot of things that maybe don't work out, but eventually you'll find something that works out. It's about being persistent, right? The motivation comes and goes. And too often people think that they should make something when they're motivated. That's absolutely not correct, because motivation is inconsistent at best and it comes and goes at the worst times, right? What you want is to be consistent, you want to be persistent, and you want to be dedicated. That's what you want, right? So even at those days where you don't really feel like doing something, you'd rather be doing something else or playing video games or watching a movie or whatever, you make a rule for yourself. No, this is what I'm going to do. I have a schedule for myself, and schedules help, and this is what I'm going to do. So you just do it, right? I've never regretted it. Looking back, I don't think to myself, wow, all of that time that I spent working on my project that was really productive, I regret that time and I would like it back. I've never thought about it that way. I have thought about it in the way of when I really don't feel like doing it and I decide to be lazy and not do that and do something else, and I look back at it and I think, okay, so maybe I could have made better use of that time, and next time I'll try to do better, right? But again, it's different for everyone. My goal at this stage is to put my next project on Steam and not make $0. If I can make a suggestion, before setting those goals, ask yourself, is that really the goal that you want to aim for? Because you're a developer, right? It doesn't matter what level you're at, right? You're a developer, right? You should be trying to make what is, in your opinion, the best game that you think is interesting and appealing to you. The secondary thing that it should do is make money, right? So if your motivation is money, unfortunately, that will affect your outcome. Why put something on Steam if it's likely to make $0? You might as well put it on itch.io. You're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong on that either. I'm not saying that I have the answer. What I'm saying is that motivation affects, or not motivation, but your motivation and your goals affect your outcome. So that's definitely worth considering. What is your goal? What is your outcome? Right? For everyone, it's different. So I can't tell you what you should or shouldn't do. What I can say is that it's not an easy journey. Learning on its own is very challenging. Learning is challenging. There's going to be a lot of failures that you're going to need to take graciously. That's not going to be easy. Like, for example, you can make something, you can pour your heart into making something that you think is the best thing ever. And the first 10 responses that you're going to get is, this thing sucks, right? Because everyone has a different point of view, right? Some people are going to like it. Some people are not going to like it, right? You can't make everyone happy, because if you try to make everyone happy, you're going to make nobody happy, right? Including yourself, right? Keep yourself happy, have a positive outlook, but set goals and have those goals be incrementally more challenging. Don't aim high and fall short of it, right? Instead, aim realistically and try to, go beyond that if you can. Art, coding, and design are kind of natural for me. The marketing is the uphill battle for me. And it's not just you. That's not just you. That's everybody. Even AAA titles. You know how much money they spend on marketing? Like, those AAA titles have gotten to the point where they spend half their budget on marketing. Like something like Grand Theft Auto, right? Where they spent $500 million making it. $250 million is spent on marketing. That is a lot of money to spend on marketing, right? And that's a AAA title. For indies, though, you don't necessarily have to do that, right? And I recommend actually against spending money on marketing initially when you're starting out. Instead, put that money towards improving different aspects of your game so it stands out from the rest, right? Put that money towards better music, towards better graphics, towards better UI, right? Towards licensing or whatever the case may be. That's why I wouldn't try to hit the top 15% earning tier. I think I could hit the top 50 tier though. Yeah, I mean, if you believe that, then by all means, go for it. But be prepared. Don't, as the old saying goes, don't put your eggs in one basket, right? Be prepared. Always have a backup, and don't commit to something 100% that is not going to be 100%, because realistically nothing is 100%, but don't gamble is basically what I'm saying, right? Take every opportunity, learn from it, improve your skill set, and continue to make better and cooler stuff. Personally, I don't know anyone who has gone from just starting out to make games to making popular games. I don't know anyone that's a developer, actually, personally. I know of people, yes, that I do know of. And they'll tell you the same thing. I've gone to indie meetups before, locally, and everyone's having the same challenge, right? Everybody wants to get their stuff out there to their target audience, but how do you find your target audience is the first question that everyone asks themselves, and they're all like, well, I don't really know, right? So you have to adventure forward into the unknown and see what comes from it. That's the best I can tell you. About 30% make zero money. Half of the indies make some small amount of money on Steam. Yeah, that's likely true. But again, everyone's scenario is going to be different, right? You could make a RTS for mobile games, right? It could be successful. It could not be, right? It all comes down to you. Okay, so I think I'm going to be calling it for tonight, though. I cannot like I'm really feeling the logical exhaustion from the programming stuff or from the week and then programming. I think we're okay though in terms of the circular menu. I do think it looks good. I like this button configuration. I find that it will, it is intuitive and it makes sense so that when we press it on first press, it comes up and then we can navigate. Right, I was going to do the position, but to restrict the position movement, we're going to have to get the scriptable object thing working. And then if you press it a second time, it collapses. I think that's pretty good usability. I'm okay with that. That's a pretty smooth transition. And then later, when I make shaders for these buttons, and I do want to make shaders for them, we're likely going to get some better performance out of it too. So right now you can see that when it comes in, you can see it dip down a little bit, the average FPS and the low end and whatnot. I want to definitely get some more performance stuff out of it. But that'll be for later. Yeah, I think this is where I'm going to call it. So thanks, guys, for coming hanging out. Mr. Cog3D, always a pleasure. Mr. Lovecraft, best of luck, and I'd like to see you again. Let me know how your future projects are going, and just continue to stay with it, and you'll find your way. I'm confident in that. As a fellow developer, I can tell you that it's not easy, but there is a way. If there's a will, there's a way. Anyway, that's going to be it for me today. So thank you for watching. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you guys next time.